Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing this week's Midweek Magic event, which will be Phantom Sealed of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. For those who don't know, Phantom Sealed simply means a sealed event where we're playing with 6 packs of cards, but we're not actually keeping anything that we play with. That's because Midweek Magic events are always free weekly events, so when they do limited events like Draft or Sealed, you don't keep any of the cards you play with, but you do get some random rare rewards, as well as a mystery cosmetic on the prize tracker. And I'm a huge fan of these events because they give players a way to practice the limited environments for free before they hop in with their gold and gems. So without further ado, let's bust open our 6 packs and see what we get to play with today. Alright, so we've got some decent rares here, a couple nice black rares, just big threats like Souls of the Lost and a Starving Revenant. We've got a nice Warden of the Inner Sky out of white that can become larger and larger as the game progresses as long as we're tapping a bunch of permanents for it, and some decent blue rares like the Braided Net, which can lock things down for a few turns, and then Tishana's Tidebinder, which can be great against creatures and just permanents in general that have really good abilities, like your opponent tries to play one of their craft artifacts that has an enter the battlefield effect and then flips into something better. If you counter that with the Tidebinder, as long as your Tidebinder's on the board, you've stopped their initial ability of the enter the battlefield effect, and you're stopping them from ever crafting it, as long as that Tidebinder sticks around on board. So there are actually quite a few cards the Tidebinder plays pretty well against in this format. So very solid rares, but we'll see what we've got for our commons and uncommons here to see what looks like the most fun. Since this is a free midweek Magic event, we will try to go for the most fun kind of deck, rather than spending too much time here going for the most competitive deck ever. We'll have plenty of time to do some competitive sealed later on in the month, around the 20th, 21st. That is when there will be an arena open for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan again, and that will be 6-pack sealed for day 1 and best of 3 draft for day 2. So looking forward to that, but for now, let's see what fun stuff we have. Not a lot of multicolored and colorless spells here, nothing super important to keep in mind there. Although we do have some Compass Gnomes if we need a little bit of generic colorless mana fixing, and there is a Captain Storm if we manage to go blue-red. She's going to be great with a lot of artifacts in the deck. And with our multicolored and colorless out of the way, we can take a peek at each color individually real quick, see how good they all look, and there's a really easy way to do this in the deck builder. You can just click on a certain color and also type T:CR, and then that is going to show you your creature curve in that color, as well as all your non-creature spells, and you can really easily swap through colors this way. So highly recommend that for quickly glancing through your sealed pool. So for now with white, it looks like we have a lot of spells here, definitely a high quantity of cards, and a lot of these playables are really good. Cards like Tinker's Tote that put 3 permanents on the board are really good with cards like Warden of the Inner Sky that wants you to tap 3 permanents for it. So that's a very obvious synergy, but also just some artifacts like Deconstruction Hammer that sit there on the board and don't really do anything by getting tapped. This is mainly just an equipment. This is another card that works great with cards like Warden of the Inner Sky, because now you get to use your equipment and also use it towards tapping a certain number of permanents without really losing any value. Whereas when you are tapping creatures for Warden of the Inner Sky, they're not going to be able to attack or block that turn. But with equipments, a tapped equipment and untapped equipment is basically the same thing for the most part. So that's another great synergy for the Warden. We've also got decent removal, with Petrify being the best removal spell here, and some more narrow removal like a Cosmium Blast and a couple Quicksand Whirlpools. Pretty big fan of white as a color so far by a lot. Check out our blue now, and it looks like we've got some of the premium commons in the format for this color. Cogwork Wrestler has a lot of great card types. Being an artifact is really important in this set. It means that you can craft your craft with artifact cards with a Cogwork Wrestler from your grave. So your cards like Inverted Iceberg work very nicely with that Cogwork Wrestler. Plus it's basically just a combat trick that leaves that artifact creature behind. So really nice to see the Wrestler alongside an Iceberg. There's also a Waterwind Scout, one of the best commons in the set. Just great value, getting that map token and a cheap little flyer. We've got our rares here as well with a Braided Net and a Tishana's Tidebinder. Neither of these are like incredible rares, but having both in the same color does juice it up in terms of the power level a bit. So blue is looking quite solid as well. Checking out our black, this quantity is very high. There's a lot of black spells here, and they are all the way up the mana curve. We've even got some great cards that are kind of fitting 2 slots on the mana curve. The Visage of Dreads are going to let us use these as a discard spell in the early game, and also a finisher in the late game. They're both a 2-drop and a 6-drop, ripping our opponent's best card out of their hand, and then flipping into a giant menacing threat. So big fan of that. There's also a Tithing Blade here to make our opponents sacrifice a creature, and also turn into a more mediocre finisher, a really slow finisher, just draining our opponent for 1 life a turn, but still nice to get kind of 2 cards worth of value off the one thing. We've got our black rares, which I think are the strongest rares in the sealed pool. The Souls of the Lost can just be really big later in the game, and the Starving Revenant. The Starving Revenants can be very solid card draw just when it hits the board, plus some life drain later in the game. We've got great Descend cards like Stinging Cave Crawler that can try to draw cards, great anti-aggro stuff like Malicious Eclipse if our deck ends up looking really slow based on the mana curve. Deep Cavern Bat, there's a lot of hand disruption here, a lot of just ripping our opponent's best cards out of their hand between the Bat and the Double Visage. Really, really like the black, so I think I liked the blue, or the white, a little bit better than the blue, so right now we're looking like white-black is a very likely place to be, but we are still going to look through the rest of the colors, checking out red now. This looks like the least well-represented color so far in terms of the quantity of cards. The quality is also pretty low. A few tectonic hazards really aren't going to do much. Curator of Sun's Creation does require a lot of Discover to get it going, and I don't think there's a single Discover spell here. I guess there's one. One Atali's favor to go with the Curator, but we need a secondary color that has a lot of Discovering going on, so that's probably not likely either. The rest of these cards are definitely in between playable and very good. Like the Scytheclaw Raptors are very good. The Abrade is very good. The Tomb Raiders can be very good with a high artifact count. But yeah, Idol, Dynatomaton, Sunfire Torch, those are just like decent playables. But this does lower the color down to not too many cards here, not too many spells. If we're not playing the Tectonic Hazards or the Curator, we'll definitely play the Atali's favor. I was just setting that aside to show off that it's our 1 Discover card for the Curator. So red looks decent, but I'm thinking basically every other color so far looks a bit better. And last but hopefully not least, I mean, I guess we don't really care if it's the least because our black and our white look really good. But yeah, last color is going to be green here, which looks solid if we want to ramp up into just some beef. We've got a Cavern Stomper and a Nurturing Bristleback to spit a bunch of power toughness onto the board in the late game. We've got the Poison Dart Frog and the Stone Tree to ramp up to that 6-7 mana. The Glimpse the Core can also help ramp. So just like a green-based ramp deck could definitely be a thing. That's basically all the colors doing here. Ramping into some beef. Looks super solid, but not quite as good as our black and white for sure. So let's do some black-white, just rares.deck over here. We get to cut 13 cards out of here, so we can make it a pretty standard 15 to 17 creature deck here. We're at 21 creatures, so we can cut somewhere between 4 and 6 creatures. So let's look through the mana curve and choose the weakest ones. See how much crafting we have for the Market Gnome. It's not a card I generally pick very highly in draft, but if it's in our sealed pool and we have several ways to craft with it, it could be fine. And we've got 3 craft cards. Do we have any sacrifice? Because also sacrificing it can be okay. Yeah, we can sacrifice it to a Souls of the Lost. I'm probably not going to play a Veto's Inquisitor. This is just not played very well. It's quite a hefty cost to just be getting counters on this thing. Glorifier of Suffering can be okay. I like that a little more than the Veto's Inquisitor. So we might have like 2 ways to sacrifice it between Souls of the Lost and a Glorifier. Market Gnome, fine for now. Guidewing is definitely very good. Warden is awesome. Freebooter is pretty filler. Iron Aspirant is solid with flyers. It's also really good with our Warden of the Inner Sky. That can kind of speed run it up to 3 counters on it, because that's when it gets flying and vigilance. It doesn't care how it got the +1/+1 counters, just that it has them. Crackshot's pretty filler. Deep Cavern Bat, Souls of the Lost, and Double Visage are great. At 3 mana, Glorifier's filler. Thousand Moon's Infantry is filler. Screaming Phantom's also kind of filler, but we have multiple ways to exile cards out of our grave. Those are the craft cards that we have in the deck, like the Double Visage of Dread and the Tithing Blade. And we also have some cards that want us to have a very full graveyard, a graveyard that has a ton of permanents in it, like a Stinging Cave Crawler wants 4 permanents in our grave, so the self-mill on this could actually be worth it. And I like the Synapse Necromage here as well, to go with the Warden of the Inner Sky, again, just getting a lot of permanents off the one spell. 4 mana Brood Rage Mycoid, it's just never played super well for me. The Inquisitor, also pretty bad. Do love the Starving Revenant. The Spike Tail's nice, because it can be a land if we need it early, or it's just a solid filler finisher. And then 4 Primordial Gnar is a bit much. I think this card's fine. It only has 2 toughness on a 5-drop, which is usually a really bad deal because you don't want your 5 mana card to trade down into 1 and 2 mana creatures and 1 and 2 mana removal spells. But when this draws us a card when it dies, it's pretty fine. It's going to draw us and cast us a spell pretty much guaranteed. So I think this card's super fine. I don't know if I want 4 copies though. So again, let's see our creature count again. It is 21, so we do get to cut 4 to 6 creatures here and still be at the 15 to 17 count. We've also got Double Visage of Dread, which sort of counts as like a 6-drop finisher creature as well. I don't think there's anything else. Well, there is a Tinker's Tote, so that also sort of works as a 3-mana creature, giving us those gnome tokens at that point of the game. So we could really cut up to like 8 creatures here. So if I want to cut like all this stuff, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just keep a couple Primordial Gnars. Seems perfectly reasonable to me. And then we just cut 5 of our non-creature spells. So I did say I do like equipment with cards like Warden of the Inner Sky, and Deconstruction Hammer is just a solid equipment in the first place, giving you main deck artifact and enchantment removal. Bloodthorn Flail is less solid. You do really want some discard synergies for this because equipping for 3 is kind of a lot. So less excited about that. Keep the Cosmium Blast for now. Not going to play Fabrication Foundry. The idea behind this as a build around is you want to play a lot of the craft artifacts like Tithing Blade that hit the board and give you a full card's worth of value off of the Enter the Battlefield effect alone. That way you just play it, you get your Enter the Battlefield effect off of it, and then you exile that to return another artifact from your grave to the battlefield. Since it's already kind of served its purpose, it's already kind of done its job, I don't think we have enough to synergize with this for it to be worth it. It's going to be pretty unplayable here. Family Reunion is not the greatest. Both the effects are kind of narrow for the mana cost and for justifying spending a card on that. Mephitic Draft is definitely not good if you don't have a lot of ways to sacrifice it, so that's also a maybe. Tinker's Tote definitely stays in. Malicious Eclipse could be a bit weird. We've got a good chunk of 2 toughness creatures of our own, so that will be clearing out a lot of our stuff too. At least our stuff doesn't get exiled, and only exiles our opponent's cards, so our cards like Primordial Gnar will still trigger if they die to this. Our Synapse Necromage will still trigger if it dies to this. Pretty matchup dependent though. I would definitely be happy to like sideboard it in best of 3, but I'm just going to not start it in the deck here. I like Quicksand Whirlpool a little better than Ray of Ruin because when we're on the defensive we can cast it for only 3. It's also instant speed versus sorcery speed. The Ray of Ruin can target a wider variety of cards, but the number of times that you need to exile a vehicle or a non-basic land are really low. And if you need to exile a vehicle, you can just do it after it's been crewed with the Quicksand Whirlpool anyway, since this is instant speed, so rather cut the Ray of Ruin than the Whirlpool. So let's see, what do we cut here? 5 of these cards. So let's drop the Ray of Ruin immediately, because we're still left with 5 removal spells, basically. One thing I don't love is Petrify and Tithing Blade is not a good combo. So we're definitely hoping to draw these in the correct order, and Tithing Blade before we cast a Petrify. If I cast a Petrify in the early game and lock down a creature, then I cast a Tithing Blade later, our opponent gets to easily just sack whatever we petrified. But I think these are both good enough removal spells to run these all in the deck. 4 more cuts. I'm going to cut Mephitic Draft. We don't have enough ways to sacrifice it consistently for it not to just be 2 mana draw 1, which is pretty bad. Fabrication Foundry does very close to nothing, so we'll cut that. And then basically we just pick one of these to keep in the deck. Out of all these cards, what would I like to keep in? Maybe the Bloodthorn Flail, weirdly. I don't think it's Family Reunion. It's either Bloodthorn Flail or Malicious Eclipse, and I think we've got a good amount of just standard removal to not want the sort of board wipe here. Especially because it does clear out a lot of our own stuff. Yeah, we'll try the Flail out. Maybe it'll be okay. We'll see. But we are going to call it a deck here. And here's a look at our final deck list for today. We are on a black-white mid-range deck with just a combination of the best cards in the sealed pool. Some great rares in here. We've got Starving Revenant for some great card draw, Souls of the Lost that can be really big as the game progresses, and a Warden of the Inner Sky that we can pump up to become large later in the game. We've got a lot of great interaction here with Cosmium Blast, Petrify, Tithing Blade, and Quicksand Whirlpools to blow up our opponent's threats, and several ways to rip cards out of their hand with Deep Cavern Bat and a couple Visage of Dread. There's great longevity to this deck as well, with all these high mana value craft cards like the Visages turning into these gigantic menace threats, the Tithing Blade turning into some life drain, so a lot of good top end while still plenty of stuff to block with and use as removal in the early game. Looks like it's got a little bit of everything you need, and hopefully it'll play pretty well in a lot of scenarios, but we'll see soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Here we are now for game one on the draw. Very big fan of this hand. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I really love the idea of just ripping a couple cards out of our opponent's hand here. I think I'm going to start with the Visage because it's a little more narrow in what it can deal with, pulling out an artifact or creature. Whereas the Deep Cavern Bat can hit any non-land card, so I don't want to like Deep Cavern Bat and then really want to rip out an artifact or creature and leave them with not anything that the Visage can hit. Plus, if I play the Visage first, I get to see exactly how much removal they possibly have for the Bat. Oh my god. Oh my god, our opponent's going to be so annoyed. Alright, let's start with the Visage here. See if they have any removal for bats. Oh wow, they do. They have Quicksand Whirlpool and a Braid, but now I just get to hit their bomb rare. A Neem Pakal, 1000th Moon that spits out an army of gnomes every time she attacks. There's an Iron Paw Aspirant here. Buff up the cavalry, get some damage going. We've got the Tinker's Tote to get several chumpers. The Deep Cavern Bat can gain us some life. If I Deep Cavern Bat the Abrade, I know they can't Whirlpool the Bat, and then I get to start lifelinking to buy some time here. And then next turn I go Visage plus Cosmium Blast. Because I don't want to Visage when there's only one card we don't know about. And that card would have to be an artifact or a creature for the Visage to even do anything. So I think we Deep Cavern Bat, and then next turn we Visage plus Cosmium Blast, depending on what we see. Oh yeah, that's awesome. So we get rid of the Abrade. And if they tap out of the Whirlpool, then we start attacking with Bat to gain life. If they don't, then we don't attack with the Bat. We wait till they need that 6 mana to kill the Bat. Okay, take 4 damage here. Again, next turn I can Cosmium Blast the 3/3, and then I'm only taking 1 damage a turn, so I think we've got time here. Oh no, did they top deck removal for the Bat, maybe? We know the cards they didn't draw this turn, and that's Sandwing plus Whirlpool. Oh, they might just, yeah, plain cycle the Sandwing now. We don't know if Visage is going to hit or not. Because there goes the creature we were going to pull out, maybe. So, I can Visage against 1 card blind. Or just hold up Cosmium Blast. I guess there's no better time, right? Because from this point on, they're going to have like 5 mana up every turn. If they top deck a creature or an artifact, they just play it. Yeah, might as well. They're a red-white deck. It's not like they're going to cast like a draw 3 spell and then we try to Visage them the turn after that. They're just going to be drawing 1 card each turn and playing it for the most part. All right, Acrobatic Leap. Well, I'm very happy to have that information. Oh, that's actually very awkward, though. because Cosmium Blast dealing 4 to an attacking or blocking creature is not going to be enough if they acrobatic leap the cavalry. Oh, that is super bad. And I can't attack in here because then they untap the cavalry. I can't shoot it with blast until they declare the block, at which point it's got 6 toughness, which with bat plus blast doesn't even kill it. Okay, that is really not what we wanted to see. Acrobatic leap actually is a very good draw against the Cosmium Blast that they didn't even know about. Alright, Clay-Fired Bricks gets them the land for the Whirlpool if they use it on a tapped card. But it also gets them closer to flipping this, giving their whole board +1/+1, getting some 1/1s on the ground. Yeah, I mean, now it really feels like our best bet here is to get a 5/6 down to block with, I guess. We are taking so much damage here. That acrobatic leap, just the threat of it is so nasty. That's a fantastic draw. The issue with that one is acrobatic leap can still stop it. But acrobatic leap can't stop both of these. So I can double spell to kill the cavalry. We trade Cosmium Blast and Whirlpool for acrobatic leap and Burning Sun cavalry. Please no land 6. Please no land 6. Atali's Favor. Dang it. Can't do anything about that. If I did have removal that could hit their untapped creature, that would have been such a great time. Just completely counter the Atali's Favor. But we are 1 mana off from just whirlpooling it. Untapped. That also means if I just end up killing the Iron Paw Aspirant, that, or if I end up just killing the cavalry, we're still taking 2 a turn now, which is not good. Okay, what am I doing here? We throw a Cosmium Blast at the Aspirants, they acrobatic leap it, take 3 there, but then we do get to resolve Whirlpool on Burning Sun Cavalry. I guess that's what we've got, right? That makes the most sense to me. Yep. There we go. Think I do this to gain 3 this turn. But then they know we have a Spike Tail, so they might Whirlpool the Spike Tail instead of the Bat, so they can get through that. But then I've got a Visage coming up. Nope, I've got no creatures engraven. This is going to get exiled instead of killed. Dang, I am not flipping either of these for a while. Maybe it is better to just hold the Spike Tail and have them use their removal on the Deep Cavern Bat. But I really want some life gain here. And if they don't hit the land to exile the Spike Tail, this stops all their damage this turn as well. Definitely crossing our fingers that it takes them a little while to find this 6th land. Burning Sun Cavalry is the draw. Alright. Just sit here and gain life. Like, they can Whirlpool the Bat, but then they don't have a Whirlpool to get rid of the Spike Tail, and they can't get through that. Yeah, so they're saving the Whirlpool to kill the Spike Tail eventually. I should just play this land, probably, rather than bluffing 1 guard. There's the Whirlpool for the Spike Tail. Well, we're only taking 2 a turn until they find the next land to flip the Clay-Fired Bricks. Then we're taking, what, 4 a turn? That's not great. Deconstruction Hammer really helps. I think I have to take the turn off. Well, I can attack in and gain 2. I can gain 2 life off of every single attack, or I can just blow up the clay-fired bricks so that they're not going to get a massive board. I imagine we have to kill the bricks, because this is an extra 4 power, 2 1/1s, and +4/+4. It's an extra 6 power. Yeah, no, we have to just blow it up. Well, that is a great draw. That would have been really horrific for me if I did go for the attack. Because then I don't even have a creature on board to use the decommission hammer. Still pretty horrific for me, though. Kills my lifelinker and buffs up their board to hit for 4 a turn. That's super bad draw. Is the Osteosaur an artifact? No, it is not. So if I do manage to get it flipped, it can trade into something. It blocks, takes 2, and then dies to the Abrade, but it trades into 2 of their cards. Well, that gets abraded and then we die. No, I guess I can craft with it, actually. Got exactly enough. That works to make sure we don't die. Unless they top decked more removal. I do want to mill 2 cards because I have another Visage on board, so we want more. Oh, 2 removal spells. Well, they were in the bad order. It was Petrify into Tithing Blade, so it's kind of like 1 removal spell. If I give this a 5th toughness, it's still within reach of getting killed by blocking plus a braid anyway. But I guess then I can block the aspirant without getting trampled as much, right? They shoot it for 3. Yeah, I don't get trampled at all if I do it. This also fills my grave if I draw any descend cards, I guess. We do have the Starving Revenant, that's descend 8. And we are not there. We're at 5 descend. 5 permanents in graveyard. Okay, so I block here and they abrade. I don't get trampled at all. I take 2 and go to 2. They drawn just 3 spells here. We will find out. Well, we're dead. 0-1 to start it off. Alright, here we are on the draw. Pretty slow hand, but the Whirlpool is 3 mana removal when we're on the defensive. So I will keep it. 2-drop into 3-drop into 5-drop is not horrific for sealed. Deep Cavern Bat, that could be excellent. Throwing a counter onto it with the Aspirant. Playing against a Caves deck so far. There's an Idol, a Deep King, and an Abrade. And doesn't matter what I choose here, they kill the bat with the other card. And get the other one back. Well, that sucks. Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter the order. I guess I make them tap out for the 3 mana removal. Because pretty much anything in our deck that dies to Abrade also dies to Idle anyway. Because it's all like 2 toughness like Primordial Gnar. Oh, they're not going to Idle yet. That's cute. Ooh, Warden of the Inner Sky. Interesting. So since they only have the 2 mana removal left in their hand, or the 2 damage removal left in their hand, if I play this, and I put 2 counters onto it, we get it out of reach of Abrade before they can possibly Abrade it. Because they can idle our bat away, but then they only have 1 mana left and they can't also cast the Abrade. But even if they did have the mana for the Abrade, they have to idle the bat and then try to Abrade a 3/4, which does not work. Alright, seems sweet to me. They've got 1 green mana up. I'll hold the Aspirant back to block the 3/1. Next turn when we play the Primordial Gnar, that's going to let us get the Warden up to the 3rd +1/+1 counter, and then it's going to have Flying and Vigilance. And we just crush with that. Alright, so there's just green-red dino stuff here. They just had quite a few caves early on. Okay. I take a lot of damage if I tap my whole board for the Warden right now. I think I'm going to wait a turn, and I'll do that when I have my removal spells up. Because this is 2 mana, this is 3 mana. So we play the Hidden Courtyard tapped, tap the board, hold these up. Alright, crack that Hidden Nursery, see what they discover. It is a Dynatomaton. Give something menace till end of turn. Ooh, can give the Yearling menace, and it gets the extra power to be 4 power here, which makes it so it kills both our 2 toughness creatures if we double block. That'd be pretty cute. I think that'd be a solid attack for our opponent. Give the River Herald Guide menace. That would only kill 1 of our cards. But I do need to still have 3 permanents on the board next turn to do the Warden thing. Really don't want to just take all this damage. I'm going to cross my fingers off the Gnar, discover that it hits a permanent. But it doesn't even have to be a creature. It can be like a Visage or an equipment or something, and that works. And it's a creature, so we're good. Alright, got the 4/5 Flying Vigilance. We've got 2 removal spells held up on the defensive. Scytheclaw Raptor. Oh my god, that's the perfect draw. Scytheclaw Raptor against 2 instant speed removal spells. I don't think I could have named a better card for them to cast. God dang. I mean, we're taking 4 from these whether or not we kill them, so we might as well kill them. But that is so obnoxious. They have a trick too for hexproof, maybe? They are looking at their hand. Maybe just a trick to buff the Dynatomaton. I mean, if they do, then they win. Okay. They do not. We go to 2. Braid the Cave Crawler, sure. Do I want to play a Deconstruction Hammer or discover something here? So Idol can flip because Dynatomaton's in their grave. Oh, I just realized I killed the wrong things. I should have exiled the Dynatomaton because of the craft ability on the idol. And then they wouldn't be able to flip that into the equipment. I think because they can flip it, we have to discover here. I guess I can cast the hammer too, I just can't equip it. Well, that's something. To chump block and gain some life. Alright, now we get our punishment for not exiling the artifact. Necromage is a pretty sweet one. We chump block with that, and then we get the fungus tokens. And those fungus tokens let us tap for the Warden again in the future, potentially. Alright, they're dying in 2 hits to this Warden no matter what, even if I crack the hammer. So now I think we do crack the hammer to kill their equipment. Okay, explore onto the Brontodome. Hit a Dynatomaton, that is terrifying. We need to leave as many creatures on this board as possible. Okay, pray for no combat trick here. Is our best bet, because I can't, like... I can't lose any blockers here. I died to the Dynatomaton. Okay. I should have double blocked. I should have double blocked because they probably would not have ordered it right. They probably would have ordered to attempt to kill the Warden. If I double blocked and they did order it to kill the Aspirant or the Necromage, we would be dead on board this turn. So there's definitely a risk to doing that. Well, they concede. Well, yeah, I guess they know exactly what they're going to draw. They know that it's not enough. They give this Menace. I double block it. We chump block the 4 and we take 2. We go to exactly 1 life. Alright, really close game. Much closer than it needed to be. I think not double blocking there was probably right because there is that risk where if they choose to order it to where they kill Aspirant, we die. Or I guess we don't, right? Because we both lose a creature if I double block. We both lose a creature if I double block. So then it's still like Menace that, I double block it. And go to 1. So it's the same difference if we double block or we don't double block. But if we do double block, then it gives them the chance to not order correctly before I crack the decommission hammer. In which case we get to kill Brontodon for free without even losing a creature. Yeah. Yeah, we should have double blocked there. The biggest punt of the game, not like a massive punt or anything, but definitely should have exiled the Dynatomaton and Cosmium blasted the Yearling, the other one. Because by exiling the artifact, that would stop them from crafting the Idol of the Deep King. We would have been under much less pressure there. Luckily, the power of the Warden of the Inner Sky, just as a bomb rare, still carries us to victory. And we grab our first random rare reward. That reward is going to be some gems from Dominar United. Always a fan of some more gems for some more drafts. Alright, start off with a Miner's Guidewing, then play a Market Gnome and a tap land turn 2. Looks solid. we are on the draw here. Against a green deck with a turn 1 twists and turns. So they miss out on their turn 1 explore. Drawn into a Warden of the Inner Sky now. So I'm going to play this the second that I will have 3 permanents on the board, but not until then. So I want to immediately juice it up and get it higher out of range of some fight spells and stuff. So this turn we just play a Market Gnome. Should I? I should have played Market Gnome pre-combat. But I still think Guidewing for Dart Frog's a good trade. But it would have been a really good trade if I had a Market Gnome on board and I would get to explore when the Guidewing dies. I kind of forgot that the frog has reach. Been playing so many of all the flashback formats, forgetting about all the intricacies of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Alright, let's just start juicing up a Warden, I think. And then we just whirlpool their attacking creatures. Well, do I have the time to juice up the Warden here? I mean, I can hit them and juice it up, but then I don't block the 0-3, I don't block the 1-3. I take like 3 damage. 3 damage is not bad. Let's juice it. I always forget this thing scries while you do that. Oh boy, we are taking a lot more than 3 now. Hopefully they make one of these like super massive. Aww. They played it very conservatively there, which is correct against all this removal. No attacks. Okay, that I think is extra conservative. I'm not so sure about that one. But spreading out all the counters so that you don't get got by removal, that makes a lot of sense. Just keep ditching these. I mean, I guess I hit enough lands and I get to start using all these caves. I'm going to need 6 mana to crack the first cave, and then I need to draw another land after that to crack another cave. Alright, they're out of cards in hand. They've dumped everything onto the board. So we know a Quicksand Whirlpool gets to resolve, and then we just play a Gnar next turn. Cool. Let's exile. It's going to be a long time before they descend 4 at this rate, so I think we exile just the stronger attacker. And I don't really want to trade Warden of the Inner Sky for the Death-Touching Dart Frog. So we wait till next turn when I can Whirlpool the Dart Frog before we do any more attacks here. But I'm going to hold up the biggest blocker we can. And the Dart Frog being 2 toughness now means the Guidewing doesn't get in either. Okay, that's the 6 mana for the Whirlpool. I'd rather Cosmium Blast here. It's taking a turn off of hitting them, and I'm very aggressive, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go full damage here. Cosmium Blast would be I'd have to attack in with both of these. They block the Warden and activate Death Touch, then I blast, so they would take 4 less damage this turn. Alright, and Vigilance is a heck of a drug here, so we get to attack with these 3 and still buff up the Warden post-combat. They're down to 7. Juice up the Warden. Ooh, counter the ability. So now it's just a 4/5 on the ground because it's going to make it lose all its text as long as they have the Tidebinder. It's pretty cute. 4/5 on the ground, still looking pretty good on this board. So I think we're fine, but that was a solid card for our opponent. Alright, slam in with the Cave Diver. They're at 7 life here. And full aggro holding up a Cosmium Blast. Alright, this is going to be an excellent Cosmium Blast. Warden gets its abilities back, and we kill both these creatures. Deep Cavern Bat the nothing in their hand. And drop a Necromage. And get a Scry. For Visage, I'll ditch that. They're not going to have anything in their hand. Although I guess we do have the 2 creatures in grave. No, we don't. We only have 1 creature in grave. So yeah, we definitely ditch the Visage. And our opponent just drops a Colossadactyl, which is not going to be enough for them, so they are going to concede. And we have now got our second victory for our second random rare reward. That is going to be... Ooh, it's actually a card? Draneth Ruins from March of the Machine Aftermath, the very weird set that no one really seemed to like. That was like a small set designed strictly for adding cards to standard. Super weird set. I don't really think they should do anything like March of the Machine Aftermath again. Those little 5-card booster packs and stuff. As far as we know, they are doing another set kind of like March of the Machine Aftermath next year. The Assassin's Creed Universes Beyond cards are going to come in Beyond boosters is what they're calling them. Which basically just sounds like it's going to be a miniature set like March of the Machine Aftermath. Except that because it's Universes Beyond, it's not going to be in standard or anything. And I don't think they're putting Assassin's Creed on Magic Arena either. Unfortunately, I do like Universes Beyond stuff. Unpopular opinion, but I enjoy like all the Universes Beyond. Give me Fortnite. I don't care. I think it's hilarious and fun. But yeah, I don't think they're doing March of the Machine Aftermath style sets in standard anymore. It does make a lot more sense for Universes Beyond because it lets them make a set of like 50 to 100 cool ideas of the separate IP without having to make a full draft legal set or without having to make all of the cards specifically commander focused like they do in commander decks. So I like the idea of a set like March of the Machine Aftermath specifically for Universes Beyond, but really did not land as a standard legal set. Anyways, that gigantic spiel out of the way, let's head into what could be the final boss. Just trying to get our mystery cosmetic reward. Here we are on the play. I am gonna get greedy here. There are definitely mana issues, but Deep Cavern Bat plus Visage is a great way to start a game off. And if we hit any lands, not even planes specifically, we get to cast most of the hand. So let's again start with the Visage, see how much removal they have before we drop the bat. They have no removal, so we get rid of their Visage so they can't Visage our bats. We let them play the souls, I guess. Play souls, discard one of their 6 drops, and that's already a 2/3, which is scary, but we've got the Petrify for it. As soon as we find a white source, we just lock it out forever. Swamp Cycle is Spiketail, though. That does make sense as well. They've got a lot of high mana value stuff in hand, and they didn't have any, didn't have a third land. So here's Deep Cavern Bat. Well, now we have to hit this Tithing Blade that they literally just top decked. Or else they kill the bat. Awkward. Okay. So staggering size is +3/+3 trample. That isn't reach, and none of their creatures in hand have reach, so we should be getting some life gain going here off of the Deep Cavern Bat. Screaming Phantom plus Starving Revenant's a really nice combo, filling the grave with the Phantom so that the Revenant gets to descend 8 a little sooner. Start draining our opponent for life as we draw cards. Alright. Opponent just skips their turn there. Seemed like they disconnected from Arena or something. Because I think they would have cast something like Souls of the Lost. Maybe they really don't want to discard a card right now. Because the only other card they can cast right now is the Staggering Size, and they're obviously not going to Staggering Size our Deep Cavern Bat, but I really think that would have been Souls of the Lost that turn if they were still on Arena right now. So maybe they're having some connection issues or something came up, or they just got really annoyed by a lot of discard. Could be any of these possibilities. It looks like we might have our opponent just DC for the final win. To be fair, though, I think we had a really solid position this game, because their deck seems to be just a bunch of really beefy creatures on the ground. So the Tithing Blade was going to be excellent to kill the souls here, and then as soon as we hit a white source, we have Petrify and Whirlpool to deal with a 7/7 and a 5/2. So we could lock the game out pretty well. I think our hand versus theirs, we're in a solid position here, even if the game does play out. Our cards have just lined up pretty well against this kind of beefy sort of deck. It does require us hitting white sources, but we just have to hit the white sources by the time they get to like 5 mana, and we know that they had no lands in hand last turn because they had to Swamp Cycle the Spiketail. So I think, on average, we probably hit the white source right around the time that they're slamming down the gigantic beefy creatures. Especially when any land gives us the Starving Revenant? Why do I always call it Revenant? Especially because any land gives us the Starving Revenant, which lets us surveil towards the white sources and also draw some cards. But yeah, it does seem like our opponent just fully DCs for the last victory. Kind of a bummer way to end it, but again, I think our hand was lining up pretty well there. Would have been cool to see how it plays out, but I will take a free mystery cosmetic reward. So we'll see what we get here. For the mystery cosmetic, it can really be almost any cosmetic on Arena. It can be card sleeves, it can be card styles, it can be parallax card styles, it can be avatars, anything like that. The one thing I always hope it isn't is a parallax card style. Those are the 3D mirrored border card styles. And that's for 2 reasons. One is I just don't like them visually as much as the other card styles. I don't like the mirrored borders. I don't like the idea of mirroring the artwork in general. But the other is that they're also the most common cosmetic by far, so they're just kind of naturally the most boring. Because they're the most likely to get opened up when there's like 200 to 300 of them per set. Almost every single card has a parallax card style. So let's see. Let's claim our mystery cosmetic. Fingers crossed. Anything but that mirrored parallax card style. But it is. It is the parallax card style. You do have to high roll to get something other than it. Because again, there's like 300 plus per set of these. So kind of a boring final reward, but it is all free stuff, as always in Midweek Magic. We got some gems, we got a rare from March the Machine Aftermath, and we got to play some free Lost Caverns of Ixalan sealed. So overall, a great time. Highly recommend these events. Like making a video every time they do a draft or sealed event for Midweek Magic or Momir. I just like to support the Midweek Magic events that I enjoy. So if you enjoy these kind of Midweek Magic events, make sure you hop on and play, and they'll make sure to do them more often. Yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. That is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.